Hello and welcome to another episode of our JavaScript for Beginners series. In the earlier episode, we learned how to create and call functions. In this episode, we are going to take things a step further and learn how we can make functions do more than just executing a group of instructions. Let's take another look at this coffee making robot. At the moment, all this robot does is carry out the instructions as they are: add coffee, add sugar, add milk, and so on. Now, what if we want our coffee making robot to add, say, 2 teaspoons of sugar in our coffee? So now we are being specific in terms of the amount of sugar we want in our coffee, and we want our robot to carry out that specific instructions. We can achieve this by using arguments and parameters. Inside console, here is the function and the instructions that are carried out by our coffee making robot. Inside the parentheses, we are going to add teaspoons. Okay, let me add teaspoons like so. Teaspoons. Okay, I've just added the teaspoons inside the parentheses. This is a parameter. Okay, so this teaspoons here is a parameter, and now that I have added it inside the parentheses, we can use it inside the function here. So I can now use it inside this function since it's added inside the parentheses. Now let me edit inside here. So I'm just going to edit inside the second instruction, that is add sugar. So I'm going to say add, and I'm going to create space here, and then add a plus operator, and then say teaspoons. This is the parameter that I added inside our parentheses. So I'm going to say plus here. Okay, let me put this inside a quotation marks like so. Okay, I'm going to say here teaspoons of sugar. Okay, let me just create space here and here. Okay, like so. Now we can include an argument when we call this function. Okay, so the argument, I am going to include the argument here. Let's say I want to add 2 teaspoons. Okay, I'm going to include the 2 inside here. Now 2 is an argument, and it is assigned to teaspoons here. Okay, it is assigned to teaspoons, or this parameter. What this means is that in this function, teaspoons will be replaced by this argument, which is 2. Now let's run this code. Control enter. You see that the function carries out the first instruction, add the coffee, and now when I click OK, it moves on to the next function, or the next instruction, that is, and here it says add 2 teaspoons of sugar. Now, as you can see, while this robot is still able to carry out instructions, it is now able to take more specific instructions. For example, here it is able to carry out a specific instruction that says, do not just add sugar, but add 2 teaspoons of sugar. So we can again go further and say, let's say again, we want to be specific in terms of the number of teaspoons of powder milk that we also want in our sugar. We can do that by adding another parameter. I'm just going to add another parameter here. Let me just call this one milk. Okay. I'm just going to add milk here, and then I'm going to break this here. Let me just add a quotation mark as well as a plus operator to concatenate, and then let me put in this parameter milk here, space, and then a plus operator. I'm again going to put this last string inside the quotation marks, and then let me just say teaspoons of just going to say powder milk. Okay, like so. Okay, now this is the second parameter. Now I'm going to add an argument that is going to be tied to this second parameter. So I'm going to I'm separating these arguments with a comma. So let's say I want to add 3 teaspoons of powder milk in my coffee. I want this robot to do that, and then let me add that argument here, 3. Now let's go back and run this code. Control Enter. The robot carries out the first function, which is add the coffee. Okay, it adds 2 teaspoons of sugar. Okay, it adds 3 teaspoons of powder milk. Let me just create a space here so that there is space between the number 3 and the text. Okay, let's just I want to run this code again. Control Enter to run this code again, like so. Add coffee. That's what the robot does. The second instruction it carries out is add 2 teaspoons of sugar, and the next instruction add 3 teaspoons of sugar. So now our robot is a lot smarter than it was before, because it is now able to carry out specific instructions. Now, what if apart from making coffee, we are also able to send this robot to the shops to buy bread for us? Okay, now let's create a function for that. I'm just going to delete this function here. We are done with it. I'm going to create another function. I'm going to say function like so, and then this function is going to have a name, buy bread. All right, this is what our robot is also able to do. A pair of parentheses here, a pair of curly braces. Now inside here I'm just going to include an alert. All right, the alert will just have a string that reads buy bread. For now it will just read buy bread. Okay, let me close this off with a semicolon, and then I am going to call this function buy bread here, like so. Okay, a pair of parentheses and then a semicolon here. Now we have a new function, because this is what our robot is also able to do. So let me remove this. Okay, Control Enter. Now our robot is also able to do what? To buy bread. Okay, our robot is also able to buy bread, but now using arguments and the parameters, we can make the robot to know how many loaves of bread it's going to buy based on the amount of money we have given it. For example, if a loaf of bread costs 15 rands, I'm using the South African currency, you can use yours. If a loaf of bread costs 15 rands and I've given the robot 30 rands, then the robot should know that it's going to buy how many loaves? 2 loaves of bread. Why? Because 30 rands divided by 15 is 2. So we want our robot to be able to know that. So how do we go about doing that? Now, I'm going to include inside this pair of parentheses here a parameter. Okay, the parameter that I am going to include here is money. I'm going to say money, and then inside this function I'm going to be able to use this parameter. Okay, So to calculate the number of loaves that we are going to buy. So I'm going to include a variable. I'm going to say var number of loaves, like so. Number of loaves uh, is equals to money money. Okay, now this is that parameter. As I was saying earlier, I'm now able to use it inside this function because it's inside those curly pair of parentheses. So number of loaves is equals to money divided by 15. Okay, this is how much a loaf of bread costs. Okay, so now when I call this function, but before I go there, let me just make changes inside my alert. So inside this alert, I'm going to say by, let me include a plus operator so that I'm able to concatenate the variable, like so. I'm going to say, okay, plus operator, number of loaves, number of loaves, another plus operator here, and then let me just create a space inside here and then inside here. All right, and then I'm going to say loaves of bread inside here. Now inside here I'm going to include an argument. The argument is going to be the amount that I am going to give to the robot. Say I've given the robot 30 rands, like so. Now let's go run the code, control enter. Now you see when I've given the robot 30 rands, it's going to know what to do. That is buy 2 loaves of bread. Okay, so if I've given it 45 rands, 45 rands, like so, run the code, control enter. Now the robot knows that it's going to buy 3 loaves of bread. So based on the amount of money that I've given to the robot will know how many loaves of bread to buy. But let's say I've just given the robot the 50 rands. I just want to show you something. Let's say I've given the robot the 50 rands to buy bread, and then let me run this code, control enter. Okay, let me run the code. All right, now the robot is going to be confused if I've given it 50 rands. It's going to want to buy 3.3333 loaves of bread, and it won't be able to do that. There's no such thing as a 3.333 loaves of bread. So it gets confused. And to remove the confusion, what we can do is that we need to round down this number here. And to do that, we are going to use the math.floor method, like so. We're going to say math.floor and then a pair of parentheses. So I'm going to cut everything here, starting with this number here. I'm going to cut everything and paste it inside these round brackets, like so. Let's just move this semicolon closer to here, and then let's run the code again, like so. I think okay, let's just math.floor.money, everything is fine. Let me just check. Okay, now let's just run the code again to check if this method floor is working fine. So it's working fine. Even though we've given this robot 50 rand, it still knows that it needs to buy 3 loaves of bread, and this is because we have rounded down this number by using the method.floor method. And these are just examples of what we are able to achieve using functions with arguments and parameters. And with that, we have come to the end of this episode. Thanks for watching and bye for now.